Hey guys, before I get into this video, I just want to say there is a Patreon over here, which if you want to contribute to the channel, you're more than welcome to go do so. And there is also a Discord in the link in the description down here to go and, get involved in. You're more than welcome. There are plenty of Arsenal fans, plenty of Liverpool fans. I want to make it a bit more of a diverse space. There are really good chats in there. We do a lot of streaming whilst there are games on and stuff. So come watch it, come have good fun with us, and we'll chat to you in that Patreon or Discord. Welcome back to the Mikel Arteta Appreciation Society, headed by me, Laurence McKenna. Probably actually not headed, I'll probably vice to someone. TDK at a minimum, but let me know which Arsenal fans I would be vice president to. After a 6-0 win away from home at West Ham, a team who notoriously roll over, but also a team who are part of something that we need to take some notice of for Arsenal. Since Arsenal lost 2-0 in the FA Cup to Liverpool, which was a formative game in itself, but also then taking the 10 days away in Dubai in between that and the Crystal Palace, I want to say Crystal Palace result, Arsenal have completely changed as a team. And now, I heard a lot about this Dubai trip. I heard that there were a lot of bonding moments. I heard that obviously there were a lot of moments where it was more about group mentality, reimagining and refinding what it is that this Arsenal team want to be, because they'd slightly got lost. If you put together a run of results, which was, by the way, a loss against West Ham, a loss against Fulham, and a loss against Liverpool, three of the two teams they've since beaten, what do you do next? You seem to be on somewhat of a slump. You've drawn away at Liverpool, which also took the wind out of your sails a little bit. You were ahead of them formatively at that time. And broadly, things just felt a little bit flat rather than on the way up. It doesn't mean Arsenal were doing terribly, though three losses in a row. But what it does mean is that if you aren't moving forward and you're standing still, everyone else is moving. And Liverpool were moving at some pace at the time. City were expecting and got De Bruyne back in this period, or were just about to get him back. There were a couple of things clicking for other teams in that time. And people were saying, well, have they missed their opportunity? The answer, since obviously that 10-day break and therefore the massive win against Crystal Palace, the massive win against Forest, the massive, and I mean season-defining win against Liverpool, has then clicked something to then just go and unleash and become relentless against West Ham. And there was a real relentlessness to this team. And by the way, it's not just one starting 11 that Mikel Arteta has managed to imbue with this new sense of enthusiasm and belief. It is multiple different players within that, which is why, first of all, they were able to beat a team like Liverpool, where they can just go and go and go. And by the way, they squashed Liverpool for almost the entire game, apart from the first 15 minutes of the second half. And possibly that one, maybe 2 or 3 attacks towards the beginning of the game against Liverpool. Arsenal just understand game management at this point, at least in those big games. I would like to flag a couple of things, and I will flag those later on in the video. First of all, let's go to the praising of this Arsenal side. How good is Declan Rice? Declan Rice has been fantastic in reviving this Arsenal side. But he's been great alongside other players as well. And I kind of want to shout him out. If you look at the lineups for this team, he lined up alongside Kai Havertz, again, brilliant. Alongside Martin Odegaard, again, brilliant. Both very attacking players. More of someone who he plays a lot more with, Kai Havertz and Trossard. And obviously, Odegaard is interesting in there. But this false 9 of Trossard, knowing what you need to do if you're playing with Eddie Nketiah, Trossard, Gabriel, possibly anyone else through the middle, but generally it was Kai Havertz through the middle as kind of like that box midfield just behind. But let's just say there's a striker like that. You've allowed a team to become so adaptable, so different to what they were last season, is what I think is really important here. So much more adaptable than they were against low block sides. So much different to the movement of Partey and Xhaka in the previous season. You are basically doing 2 players' jobs, allowing Arsenal to overwhelm and overload so many other sides now. That, on top of the fact that Odegaard was basically let free in this game. I think Noeri, who then came on, was also set free. I also think that then you're allowing Saka so much more out on that wing, because you can basically push another midfielder out there. By the way, Ben White, in not being injured in the same way now, is allowing Saka so much more freedom down that wing. And then today, I also think Kiwior was, he didn't need to really be solid against West Ham, but seeing a back line that was, again, 4 centre-backs kind of makes sense for Arsenal at this point. It kind of makes sense, especially when you can play with Rice just sitting in front of that. But let's not underestimate also the difference and the kind of, this isn't coming from me, but it's coming from my Discord in a couple of different guys. Nick in particular. Arsenal switched their their taker today for corners, but also for free kicks. And it made a big difference. Trossard was a taker before. Very often that free kick or corner wouldn't make it beyond the first. Now they've got Declan Rice over both of them, and how many assists are they getting from these set pieces? How often is he able to put it in just the right area to pick out whoever it is? That's not because Arsenal aren't dominant and couldn't dominate anyway, but if you've got someone who can just put it into that area, then generally if you have good quality players and physically dominant players, possibly like the fact that Arsenal basically have two of the best attacking centre-backs in the world football at the moment, if not in just the Premier League alone, then you are able to get players up. You're able to score goals which supplement you then being able to attack. People talk about, oh, well, you should be able to score goals from open play. All these goals that Arsenal can get from different positions and from the fact they can score from these corners, free kicks, and from also just knocking the ball over the top, bringing it down. I know Saka didn't score from that. He scored from a penalty, but you get my point. It means that gives him a cushion to be able to game manage, to be able to change the game state, to be able to go, right, we're not 3 or 4-0 up at this point. What's the point in just continuing and trying to get something here? We can just sit back and let West Ham come on to us, at which point we then counter-attack. Trossard is so key in that. Declan Rice is so key in that. The spine of this team really key. And I feel like in between that, the bridge, Kai Havertz has been fantastic as well. He's been fantastic since coming back from Dubai. It's as if they needed a bit of time to work out the positions and the areas in which Kai Havertz would operate in. I feel like he's playing a very similar role this season to the likes of a Dominic Szoboszlai. I feel like he's playing a very similar role this season. There's like a hybrid of Szoboszlai and Curtis Jones, and possibly even like I don't want to compare him to one of the Silvers, but a facilitative person in the midfield that is just constantly helping out the defence and also just always popping up elsewhere. It's not necessarily that he has like sustained periods on the ball, it's that he's a combination player and he's give and go and providing options. Very quickly the ball goes through him. He recycles possession very quickly. These are the kind of things that Mikel Arteta wants when he's got players out on the field who are going to be constantly keeping up relentless pressure on the opposition. Now, on top of that, Arsenal have also found great ways to get both wingers involved. They found them inverted against Liverpool, but in this game, it was much more about getting that width in there. It was much more about, very often, them being able to swap positions. Someone goes out wide, and suddenly they've pulled the opposition completely out of position, and whoever's given the width on that wing, Martinelli, whoever's given the wing over here, the width over here in someone like Saka, brilliant. Trossard enables that. And they were able to do this last season so many times when Trossard was on the field. It's not necessarily that he's playing an absolute false nine. I think he's playing he is playing false nine, but he's not playing the false nine in the way that we traditionally think of it, where it's like, a Lewandowski, who's much more of a traditional nine, but played the false nine for a couple of other teams, or when you've asked other players to kind of drop deep, like a Firmino type. He's playing in that facilitative role out on the wing, inside. There are so many different areas that he's taking up at this point and able to be overtaken by Kai Havertz or facilitate with an Odegaard, give a combination, create a box, that we're seeing like that skewed box at this point. People seem to think that the box only operates in vertical lines on the field. No, like you can also twist it 45 degrees that way, 45 degrees that way, and it's working for Arsenal. I know that's more of a diamond, so that you wouldn't call it a box, but it's the same principle. There are a lot of passing mechanisms within that you can use to just unlock the opposition. And again, it kind of worked against Liverpool. Their average positions almost look like a perfect box. This is much more of that like skew, and it's because obviously you've replaced Kai Havertz with a Trossard in there and dropped Kai Havertz just a little bit deeper. With all of that said, I still think that there are a couple of things this Arsenal team need to look at. Like, first of all, let's address the celebration things that have been going on. I get it really works to get like this siege mentality, should we say, for Arsenal fans, pretending that whatever Liverpool fans were saying was whatever Jamie Carragher was saying. I think a lot of the criticism or critique of what Arsenal were doing at the end of that game was, in the previous season, maybe they got a little ahead of themselves. Maybe there were times where it did feel like it was on and they allowed City to catch up. There are people who out there don't support Arsenal, but would rather see Arsenal, like me, win the league than see Man City win it. A lot of people have this pathetic idea that if it isn't, I mean, it's pathetic not to want someone to win the league in the first place. I get it, people are being pathetic, but let's get it, like football is petty and pathetic to an extent. Not always, and that's not a great thing to embody, I understand that. But my point is, like, if you're going to win the league, if Arsenal's going to win the league, I'm emotionally invested in Mikel Arteta, Saka, Odegaard, that backline to, not necessarily Raya, I'd love to see Rice win the Premier League. I'd love to see him just take step after step after step. It's going to help England in the Euros this summer. It's going to help multiple different players to just kick on and get into that next level in their career. It's going to make the Premier League so much more spicy in seasons going forward. At this point, if Man City win it, and do a double treble, or do a double double, or a treble double, or whatever you want to call it, what are we saying about the Premier League at that point? What are we saying about all the competition within that? Jurgen Klopp on his final season, Mikel Arteta on his fourth season at this point. Is it fourth season at this point? With all these things that are backing these managers up, diversity is, of course, what we want the league to have. We don't want it to just be like the same winner and over and over and over again. And we want these players who come to Arsenal to be rewarded, to stay and to enjoy those rewards, so that it doesn't just become another project that gets broken up and sold off for scrap. I get it, Arsenal fans want to feel like Liverpool fans hate them, or that Jamie Carragher's bitter or whatever. Yeah, there were loads of bitter people after the game. I didn't feel good after that. I didn't feel bitter towards Arsenal. I felt bitter towards the Liverpool team that didn't put in the performance that Liverpool needed. They didn't read the game in the way they needed to, who were confused by everything Arsenal were doing. Arsenal deserve credit for that. But also, people need to be able to critique sides and it not be a perfect thing. Arsenal fans in particular, I've noticed, and it's not every Arsenal fan, but a particular sect of online Arsenal fans are particularly sensitive and can't listen to any critiques of the side. It makes it really difficult to post videos. It makes me reluctant to want to interact with the Arsenal fan base. And I get it, that's coming from a Liverpool fan who has his own toxic fan base to deal with. But the point being, I don't like that. I want that people come to us and have a good chat with these people, are actually able to evaluate us and not just banter us off all the time. Part of the reason Arsenal and every other side become banter clubs is because they can't take it. People enjoy the sport of baiting out Arsenal fans. Don't make yourself needlessly that team. And it's partly why I love Martin Odegaard taking a photo of anything meme at the moment, is because it's giving it back. It's not just taking it and crying about it. It's actually being able to say, we understand the mechanic that's happening here. And you can do that when you win. Which is why I want to talk about Arsenal's coming fixtures, because there are some really tricky fixtures to come, right? Newcastle have been a really difficult team to face recently. They've got the first game against Porto on the 21st of February. Then they face Newcastle. Sheffield United, not so much. Brentford, not so much. Arsenal actually have a pretty nice run of games, is what I'm saying, but there's a couple of big games in there where they just need to get through them and then they can recover. You've got that big game against Porto, big game against Newcastle, and then you can recover. Sheffield, Brentford. Porto, at home, second leg. A lot of people just a couple of weeks ago were giving Arsenal very little opportunity to get through that, even though Arsenal are one of the favourites in the Champions League at this point. And in fact, I'd probably put them as better placed in the Champions League than they would be against City, not against Liverpool, but against City to win the league. And the reason I say that is because City have got the experience, City have got the legs in them, all these kind of things. I'm not saying that Arsenal aren't as good as City, I'm just saying there's experience there. And I'm talking about the ratio, how close, the proportion they are closer to City. Maybe they're close in both competitions, but I think you get what I'm saying there, and it's not a critique. Then they play Chelsea. Is that a difficult game? Then they play City, Luton at home. Thank God it's not away for those guys. Brighton away, difficult game. Villa at home, difficult game. Wolves away, probably a difficult game. The North London derby, difficult game away from home. Bournemouth, Manchester United away. I know we're talking about Manchester United in decorative terms, but Manchester United, at time of recording, are ahead against Aston Villa. And then they finish the season an Everton team who may need to stay up on the last day of the season. Very difficult, a team that held Man City. So it's not like this is an easy run between now and the end of the season for Arsenal. And against Manchester United, against Manchester City, against so many Spurs, there are 9 points in there of a swing either way. Those 9 points make a really big difference. Let me know what you're thinking, what you're looking for towards the end of the season as Arsenal fans. I really enjoyed Trossard today. For me, man of the match, even though Saka scored 2 goals. And I really enjoyed Declan Rice. For me, the 2 men of the match. Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys right here on the Laurence McKenna channel real soon. Don't forget, Discord and Patreon, they are right there. Enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.